What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Logos Podcast. This is Max.
This is Joey.
And on today's episode, we have some special guests with us, although kind of special, Patrick and Ethan from the Crunch Comedy Podcast. What's up, guys?
What's up? Special.
Not much. What's up with you?
In a manner of speaking.
Patrick, why did you jump over me like that?
I jumped over your joke.
No, because I was going to go first. Because you said before that you wanted me to go first. And then you went
and then
first.
After I said that, you said that I was the public face of the Crunch, and then Max made fun of
that
my
was
face.
A joke. That was a joke. I was lying.
It wasn't a joke. At least not my statement.
Look, I didn't. We communicated earlier that I didn't print out the outline for the podcast. All right, how would you expect me to know which way? Hi, I'm Patrick. Good to see you guys.
Hey, I'm Ethan. We're doing well. Thanks for having us on the show.
It's such a pleasure to have you both on the show. You know, it's funny. Max and I never have that problem because when Logos started, he just decided that he was going to be the intro guy.
Well, because I'm the face of this project.
And so I just have to, take a backseat to him every single time we record this podcast. But I'm not bitter about it. So
it's important that we understand power dynamics in male relationships.
You need to work through that, please.
You need to work through that, dude.
So we have Patrick and Ethan here from the Crunch Comedy Podcast. We're very excited to have you guys on the show. Thanks for coming on.
It's a pleasure.
You're welcome.
To our listeners, this is an exciting podcast for us because these guys are awesome. We've been...
Well, we'll find out if that's the case.
This is a trial. This is a trial, listeners, and you are the jury. Please write in send snail mail to Joey's house. This is his address. Whether you think we're funny or not.
In the description.
I'm going to read Max's phone number. It is 724.
That's right. 724.
Did I get the area code?
Absolutely, you did.
So let's see. For those, I guess I was saying to our listeners, for those of you who don't know who these guys are, we're going to find out, but they run the Crunch Comedy Podcast, which is a really awesome podcast. They're Catholic guys. We're going to give them a chance to introduce themselves. But before we do that, Max, is there anything we need to say to our listeners about anything?
Yes. Listen to this podcast if you're not already listening, and share it to others. Like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channels. Way up, dude. Okay. Also, support the Crunch.
Divided by 0.
Support the Crunch.
Support
although
the Crunch
less
podcast.
than you would support us. Obviously,
support us more.
And also, I have a serious question for you guys. Do you not find it a bit presumptuous to put comedy podcasts within the title of your project?
Someone asked me that the other day.
What?
This is the second time in 2 days somebody has asked me that question. It was with my boss. And he was like, don't you think it's a little presumptuous to say comedy? And I'm like, I guess. Maybe. But like you can only get dozens of comments a day for so many years that people telling you that they think it's really funny before you can not say it's a comedy podcast.
Now. So should we name our podcast a Logos Intellectual Podcast? Is that?
Do you get people saying like, wow, my podcast was so intellectual that when I was lifting weights at the gym, I dropped them on my foot because I was struck by the divine. You know what I mean?
Oh man, yeah. We try to make like a joke in the title or something, but sometimes you got to be a little more explicit because sometimes people that just like look up, they look up comedy podcasts. You got to put it in the title, but we try to put like a joke in the bio or something that like communicates that it's tongue in cheek. But even then, sometimes you gotta spell things out for people. This podcast is funny.
That's a great podcast title, by the way.
This podcast is funny.
Hey, speaking of, do you guys, when you guys start a podcast, do you do like this, hey, like, share, subscribe type deal, or do you not even waste time with that?
Probably should.
It depends. So at the beginning of the episode, or usually we'll have an invitation for people to join our Discord community, and then at the end of the episode, we'll have an invitation to join the Patreon.
Gotcha.
But other than that, we don't really. I mean, we'll maybe ask for a review every once in a while.
Podcast wisdom says like easy, harder, like harder. Like go up in difficulty. So like at the beginning
and
of
only
the show,
do one at a time. Yeah. So if you're at the beginning of the show and you say, hey, make sure you like, rate, subscribe, follow us on Patreon and follow us on Instagram, nobody's going to do any of those things because you just asked them to do 15 things at one time.
So should I slow them down and say them all again right now?
No, what you should do is you should start with just like rate the show because that's easy.
Okay.
Rate the show.
And then like go follow us on something. And then join our Patreon or whatever.
And then at the very end of the show, say, hey, subscribe on Patreon because the people who are most likely to be patrons are the people who listen to the whole episode.
Yeah.
Hey, put this man on our marketing team. You know what I'm saying?
Pretend like you didn't hear that so that when we do it in the next episode, you don't know where it came from.
For any further podcast advice, it's going to be $500 an hour.
Wow, that's a bit much, I got to say.
It's cheap compared to what we'll get for you. We're gonna make you big, kid. We're gonna make you big. We're gonna make you a star. We're gonna send you to the moon with Marilyn Manson and the other one.
The other one.
Marilyn Monroe, maybe.
Marilyn Monroe.
Marilyn Manson sounds a little crazy. I got to be honest with you. That doesn't
He is
sound
a
like
little
the
crazy
right
guy. I meant to say Marilyn Monroe, but that's what
Marilyn
happens
Monroe go to
before
the
I
moon?
have my coffee.
They both went to the moon at the same time, actually. Did you know that?
They were in that limo with Princess Diana?
Yes, that's exactly it.
Okay, good. I'm just trying to keep track.
Okay.
It's so hard to know.
So I have a question for you all.
Yes.
Yeah, what's up?
What are you?
Who
How did
are
you?
you?
How did you
yeah.
start? What is the motivation behind your project? I mean, were you just some
Money.
two guys who thought you were funny and were like, hey, we're gonna do this thing, or did it start as something else and evolve into comedy? Or it's like just your personalities. What happened?
Actually, the opposite. So the reason why we started, I wanted to start it because we wanted to be famous. That's the truth.
Well, that's failed.
We were
So
like-
what happened?
It's the best motivation.
We failed. We settled for the middle. We started it because it was Ethan's idea. You know, like he was a really big podcast listener. He wanted to start one for a while, and he tweeted out, "Hey, does anyone want to talk?" He was like, "I could do a 30-minute podcast on Catholic dating," and I said, "Me too." And he said, "Do you want to do a podcast?" And I said, "Yeah." And then we started the podcast, and that was the first time we met. Actually,
Did y'all have girlfriends at the time, or did y'all were just like we know how to date?
Ooh,
I
that's
did.
a good question.
I did. He did not.
Patrick did.
He did.
I did not.
Okay,
I did not.
Cool.
What made you so bold as to think that you could do a 30-minute podcast on Catholic dating?
Because we were college-age men.
Have you heard Catholic podcasts?
Honestly, not really.
Most
I
of
try to
them-
stay away from them.
most
if I'm
of
being
them-
honest.
In 2016,
They were
the average
brilliant.
Catholic podcast either didn't exist or it sucked so bad. And so
Fair enough.
really you could have a pulse and a good sense of humor and you could have a good show.
And a
Y'all had
US
one of
and,
those. Y'all had one of those,
There
and
you-
y'all are 7 years in now.
Exactly, right. So we've made a whole thing out of it. But really I was listening to other shows and the problem was it's not that I thought I could do it better per se, but there was just nothing that was being made for me. Like every podcast in 2016, 2017 was by an academic for academics or like by super serious Catholics for super serious Catholics.
Yeah. Or
And I
people
was
who
like, man, what
wanted
about-
to be academic.
Right. But what about people who are like me, who are in college, who aren't, like, I don't have kids, I don't have disposable income, like, I'm just a guy, and there's really nothing for me. So why isn't there something for me? And so then I just made it. And ever since then, I've been really hoping that someone would make it again so that I could have a show to listen to, but it still has not happened.
Has yet to happen.
So,
Unfortunately.
yeah, it's
You're crowding
unfortunate.
out all the competition, so you're defeating yourself. But
Ooh.
That
Natural
might be part of it.
selection
I mean,
in the podcast
like,
world.
One thing is that people think that there can't be multiple genres of something in the Catholic world, especially. This is something that's common, right? Like
Oh, it's driving me insane. We're
What-
about to get into it, dude.
sometimes we'll get like people be like, oh, there another two white guys talking podcast. It's like, well, okay, fine. That's fine, but it's like there's a very clear difference. Someone did like a whole collage of like all the Catholic podcasts that are two white dudes talking, and it was like us and the Pillar.
Can I just say what's better than two white guys talking is
A white
brown
guy and a Mexican guy.
Exactly. Anyways,
You
go
want
ahead.
your podcast to be the setup to a joke, really.
Yeah, a rabbi,
Like a white...
a priest, and a duck walk into
Yeah.
a bar and a podcast. But it was like us and like the Pillar and clerically speaking. I'm like, if you can't see the difference between the Crunch and the Pillar, then I mean they're real. Like they're a real pot. We're a joke. Like we're a couple of goofy balls, and they're very serious canon lawyers. So it's like people don't think they're going to be more than one thing. They're like, well, this is the guy who does the one thing, and there can't be any other guy like that. So anyway. If you want to start a Catholic comedy podcast, just go for it. Please, I'll listen to it if you're funny. And if you're not, I'll stop.
Fair enough.
Okay, so but you guys started back. It was back in 2016. You said.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, and you knew each other before this, or you didn't?
Not really. We had anonymous Twitter accounts. So this is before Jordan Peterson went on his rampage about the anonymous trolls on social media.
Oh wow.
And well, there's a lot of things that occurred, but basically there were a bunch of high schoolers who all had anonymous Catholic Twitter accounts. We all got to college, and then everyone decided to, for reasons we won't get into on this show, everyone decided to make their accounts public.
Why wouldn't we get into it? It's the funniest part.
I mean, if you want to, you can.
Someone got
intrigued.
catfished.
What happened?
Someone got catfished.
No
So-
This is the
freaking
OG
way, dude.
catfish.
Oh,
this is the OG.
So
back in the day.
Someone, a guy who was apparently influential and had like a blog or something, because that was still a thing in 2016. They were having like a DM conversation relationship with this anonymous Twitter account, and
Whose name, by the way, was a name I've never heard before or since.
her
Wasn't her
name was
name-
Elspeth or something.
Elspeth.
Elspeth. And she was LARPing as this like 21-year-old college girl, and so this guy was like dating her, but it turns out she was like a 35-year-old married woman. And so
Yeah,
he wrote this
with, like,
expose
kids and
on
stuff.
her, and he was like, this subculture of Twitter where it's a bunch of anonymous accounts. I remember like Jackie Francois Angel posted like, I can't believe there's so many anonymous accounts on Twitter. And so then we the day after our
And
podcast,
then me and Patrick and all of our friends, it was the Spider-Man pointing meme. Like, we were trying to figure out who the bad anonymous person was. And so we all just decided to take off our masks at once,
at the
basically.
same time.
Oh, wow.
To like reveal like, okay, I'm actually a guy. Like, I'm actually 19, like I say that I am. I'm not a 35-year-old woman, although I would love to be. Please trust
prime.
me.
Yeah.
In their prime, caffeinated, moisturized, thriving. But so we all kind of came public right around the same time, and that was like a week after we started the show. So I knew Patrick.
It was the day after.
It was the day after.
Yeah.
So I knew Patrick because we were both really funny on Twitter, and I thought he was funny. But I just knew that his handle was Anonymous Catholic, and then my profile handle was Bropostle. And so we just knew each other, and we communicated that way. And then like immediately after that, it all became all public, and that's the Catholic Twitter that you know today. It was because of a woman named Elspeth.
The legend.
Shout out Elspeth.
The legend.
Let's pray for her.
I know. It sounds like something you'd find written on a cave wall.
Yeah.
Elspeth
Also,
was here.
Bro Apostle is a sick Twitter name, I gotta
It's a good
say.
Twitter
I
name.
For a
can't believe he
10-year-old
got
or
rid
a
of it.
12-year-old.
I like hate it forever that he got rid of it. It's
I gotta say, that
awesome.
sounds like a name that you would have on RuneScape. You know what I mean?
Did you have it on
remember
RuneScape?
I
RuneScape?
do. No, I tried to get it on World of Warcraft, but it didn't work.
Oh, okay.
Their inherent anti-Christian bias. But I had to delete my Twitter account because I think it was God, Patrick. I really do.
You do?
I think it was God. I do, because I think it was the best thing that he could have done for me, because I deleted that Twitter account in January of 2020.
Oh,
Can you imagine me on Twitter during 2020?
That would have been ridiculous. Yeah.
I would have become an incel way faster than I did anyway. You know?
You have a son. What are you talking
I know.
about?
I'm married. I have a kid.
I'm married. You have a kid. You have an incel. No big deal.
Yeah.
Oh, you are married. Are you both married with families?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we both
Nice. That's awesome. So you're doing the Catholic
Yeah.
dad thing?
Oh, yeah.
trying to, man.
got a cute
My
little
wife just
kiddo.
sent me a video.
This is
My
what
wife
it
just sent me a
looks
video
like.
of my son crawling naked across the floor, peeing everywhere,
Nice.
and putting his diaper in his mouth. So
Hey, that's kind of impressive. That's quite the talent, I gotta
My
say.
dog does.
he's
something
he's
You
living.
should take
life.
that on the road.
So
Oh, man.
Wow.
Yeah, he's got an 8-month-old. No, he's older than that.
he's almost 10 months.
10 months. And I got a 18-month-old. It's ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why
Well,
don't you
that's-
just say
that's
year?
awesome.
Why don't you just say year old?
You don't understand. It goes by months.
You don't get
It
it.
goes
How
by
long-
It goes by
months until 2 for some reason.
Until
and
they're
then it
2
goes
years
by
Until
old.
two.
halves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that the
interesting.
rule? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. We
Yeah.
are
Because
being
it's-
celibate and
Yeah.
everything.
It's
and-
the rate of growth. It's like because an 18-month-old, although that's a 1-year-old, is way bigger than a 12-month-old, and so it's like
Yes, we have.
there's.
Like
It's
the
all
12
because of clothing sizes. It's really the most important thing
That's
that you gotta
that's
know.
it. It's clothing. Yeah, it's our friend has a 1 month as a 1-year-old, and Leo's only like 5 or 6 months older, and that kid is not walking, and Leo is just running, and so it just the difference 6 months makes. But then,
It's
it
huge.
stops at 2. Although you could be like, this is my 120-month-old.
I saw an Instagram reel of a woman saying, I stay home with my 20-month-old and my 41-month-old. And I'm like, woman, you have a 3-year-old. You do not have a 41-month-old. That kid is 3. Like, what are you talking about?
Oh my gosh.
So how has so y'all are a Catholic podcast that
Yeah.
Yes.
are a comedy podcast at the same time, and so we like to frame ourselves as kind of an intellectual podcast with elements of comedy. So I think within our own project, comedy is involved, and what we do on our project, I think, is also kind of in some ways brought the intellectual aspect of the church and the comedic aspect of our personalities into what we do.
Were you guys always a comedy podcast? Like, is that how it started, or like what was the original thing? And then like, what's your guys' shtick now exactly? Like, what do you do on your podcast for our listeners?
We kind of got more diverted, me and Ethan. So like, we kind of started out at the same level of intellectual and comedic formation, and as we got further into our lives, Ethan got funnier and I got nerdier. So like I went to like got a master's degree in theology and book writing and all that stuff.
And I started selling real estate.
And
Nice.
Ethan went to be a focus missionary and dressed up like a chicken and ran around campus trying to get kids to love Jesus.
Hey, that was great.
Was it effective, Ethan? Let me ask you, running around as a chicken, because we might try that around seminary.
Well, I mean, if there are people that aren't going to mass at the seminary, you have a deeper issue.
a deeper issue than.
But it was mostly because I dressed as a chicken, and it was a no meat day. It was like Ash Wednesday, so I was trying to get people to like, hey, don't order Chick-Fil-A. Like, today is your clucky day to come to mass, and it.
No, I thought it was the chicken party.
Oh, I also did it for the chicken party. So there were 2 events. So there was a chicken party at the beginning of the year. We had a witch come to one time, and that was really cool. So I would say like
a witch came to my house. That's an episode of our podcast.
A witch at the chicken party. So I would just say different things, but yeah, it was not very like I rode around on a skateboard. I just kind of yelled chicken related puns at people to get them to come to our parties. It might work at seminary. I don't know what you've got going on over there.
Depends on the party.
So depends on the party. Depends on the type of chicken. Depends on the costume. Really, how realistic is it? Are you going to look like Al from Al's Toy Barn? Because in that case, probably no good.
Or how about the chicken from Chick-Fil-A?
The chicken from the cow?
The cow.
There is no chicken from Chick-Fil-A.
I know that,
bro.
but I'm saying that's the chicken.
If you
I'm
dressed up like
into.
the cow from Chick-fil-A and did some sick kick flips or chick flips, as the case may be,
look at that.
That might get people to your chicken party.
If you dress like the chicken from Chick-Fil-A, I might have to put you in between 2 buns and add a pickle. And
they do really only put 1 pickle on that chicken sandwich.
And I still take it off every time.
Am I wrong to say that it's an okay sandwich?
Yes.
No, you're not wrong. The Popeye's chicken sandwich is better.
My man, let's go.
Wow.
The blackened chicken sandwich is much better.
All right, we don't have to add color to this. We can just leave it as a chicken sandwich. Okay. We don't see any spectrum
blackened
of color.
chicken. Never
Patrick,
mind.
they asked us a question about our podcast. We got.
Oh, sorry. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Our podcast is good.
So Patrick got nerdier, and I got less nerdy over time. I think we've always had an intellectual rigor to us. We're not afraid to talk about literature or politics or roads or economics in various capacities. But I also think that as time has gone on, we've realized like, okay, there are podcasts that are much, much better at the spiritual and intellectual side of the faith than we are. Mm-hmm. And so we should not try to do that. So what we're better at than anybody else is being funny and being relatable to people between the ages of 18 to 35.
And
because
so
that's just what we do. So we talk about stuff that we think is interesting. We're not really super concerned about providing rock solid arguments or well researched theses.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not on the show.
Okay, Patrick. Sure.
Listen, I need to make sure that I am on point because you never know when some random organization is going to decide to live react to my words. All right.
That's true. Patrick did kind of spout off some nonsense about theology of the body, and Christopher West live reacted to it on his YouTube channel today.
No, you didn't.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Joey didn't see this because he doesn't watch he doesn't use the Instagram for logos, but
or anything
Max
else
saw it.
social media related for that matter.
Joey has chosen.
Well done,
the better
Joey.
part.
Wow. So Christopher West critiqued a video that you were just messing around on this video, and then
No, I was messing around. I was making jokes about. I was like, "Oh, Christopher West." Every talk, he's like, "Oh, the trees want to have sex with you," because I thought that was funny. And Patrick's like, "I actually have a very serious problem with the way that Christopher West addresses the theology of the body." And then he went into this diatribe, and then Christopher West systematically dismantled it point by point live on YouTube.com.
It was great.
ChristopherWest.com.
But the best part was that he took the clips where I sounded the most coherent.
Oh, well, that's generous. You know, a saint
Very
would do
generous.
That, you know?
He could have taken the clip later from the show where I'm like, what if the Sears Tower was in 9/11? And like, you know, that just.
You're not
Wow,
you're not helping them
probably-
out with their bishop, dude.
it's probably good publicity, like getting Christopher West to
I
There
hope
were
so.
40 people
Just
watching
to
live.
demolish you.
Hey
I
guys,
hope
don't
so.
listen to this podcast. Anyways, moving on here.
Yeah, right.
He kept shaking a crumpled up piece of paper at us and telling us to unfold our sexuality. And I was like, I don't know.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
I didn't watch the whole video. I just like tuned in at a certain part. And he was like, Ethan and Patrick, I beg you, unfold. And I was like, what? I don't want to unfold for you right now.
I like
please."
that he kept saying Ethan and Patrick, even though like you had
He was
no
really
dog in
only
that.
talking.
You were
he was really only
you
talking
were
to you.
like, dude, I don't care. Like I
I'm
went
not
to
gonna
your talk
beef with
once.
I'm not going to beef with the guy with the PhD. I will beef with the guy with the master's degree. You know,
I
that's
will
where I'll
beef with
draw
the guy with the PhD. I super will. I realized something on the way over though. We don't have to talk about it. But I was like, I think the reason Christopher West is just so all over the place that to me the things that he says are obvious because he's been saying them since I was like a little child. And so like I've never grown up. I've grown up in a world that's never had Christopher West. You know, like I've
Not
never
in
had
it.
a non-Christopher West world.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Westworld. And so
We're like the
Westworld.
smartphones of Christopher West's world.
There's a
you know?
Christopher West and then there's a Kanye West. Just a generation
Yeah.
of the West. You know, it's the Western world.
the
might say.
torch of the West.
As the West is collapsing, we have the rise of the
Kanye
West,
West.
which is ironic. Have you ever thought
Have you
about
ever
that?
thought about that? No.
Probably.
Put that
not.
in your cereal and crunch on it. Hey.
Crunch on
Which
that,
may-
baby.
Which makes me wonder why Crunch. What is the significance of the title of that of your podcast?
None. Zero.
None at all. Okay.
To eat a lot of cereal back when I was unhealthy.
I just smoked 2
And,
bowls downstairs.
I know. I would say like I'm gonna go smoke a
I
bowl
just
real
smoked
quick.
2
But
bowls.
I was actually just eating cereal really
Yeah,
fast.
so that's what it means,
And,
right? 2 bowls.
Yeah, you want to smoke a bowl before church?
Yeah, dude.
I got you, bro.
So it's like Captain Crunch, like that type deal.
Sorry, you're gonna
It's
have to.
kinda
Sorry,
like Captain Crunch.
Joey probably doesn't get the joke that y'all just made about the bowl and the cereal and the.
Joey,
when
marijuana.
when a young neighbor wants to smoke some weed, he will put it into a little bowl and light it on
I'm
fire.
familiar with that. I'm
Okay.
familiar
What
with
did you
that
say?
concept.
Okay.
A young what? Who is it? Who is it?
Man, I'm having a good time. This isn't coffee in here. This is something.
Oh my gosh.
man.
All right, so you started
All right.
off talking about like Catholic dating, and then eventually you figured you
Mm-hmm.
should just try to be funny dudes. And is that what you do now? Like you're just funny?
Oh, we still talk about dating.
Yeah.
Are you just
do.
funny? Is that all you are? Because you need to
That's
be
really
more. if
basically
that's you.
it.
Joey, have you listened to an episode of our
Yeah,
show?
I've listened to parts of some.
Okay.
So no.
Not a full episode. Have you listened to an
That's
episode of
crazy.
Logos?
Yes.
Which one?
Which
That's
one?
like Martin Scorsese asking like, "Have you ever seen any of my pictures?" And you say, "Yeah, I've watched some Watch Mojo top 10 clips of your movies." Martin Scorsese.
Which episode you listen to? Though? I'm just curious.
Oh, I don't remember the name.
Oh,
I
that's.
apologize.
I'm sure it was super memorable. Thank you for.
It was
support.
back when you invited us on. It was so long ago that I just don't remember. I apologize.
Yes, actually, we haven't mentioned that story. So I reached out to the Crunch about a year ago, actually, almost to date, asking if they would be interested to come on. They said yes then, but for various reasons, they didn't come on. But here we are now, a year later.
The reason was because we never checked our Instagram back then.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a different
I
time.
thought it was because you guys
It
are
was a different
racist,
time.
but that's just
That
that was.
He said
That's
racist.
that's a great point. I didn't
That's
even
crazy.
think
I'm
about
not
that.
racist. My wife is a black bear.
What does that
Yeah,
mean?
can you please define that?
That's the only funny Jimmy Fallon bit that I've ever liked. He's there. It's Weekend Update with him and Tina Fey, and he's like, someone was mauled by a black bear, and Tina's like, oh, Jimmy, why did it have to be a black bear? And he's like, joke's on you, Tina. Okay, I'm not racist. I'm married to a black bear, and it was really funny.
We're gonna jet past this, but the answer to your question is we do 2 episodes a week for the public, and one comes out on Sunday and one comes out on Wednesday. The episode on Sunday, we're usually just talking about something that we saw in the news or something that happened to us, some type of thing that is relevant to the world about the faith. And we're not really trying to teach anything. We just want to have a good time, but then also talk about the real things that are going on in the world and invite people into our lives with us. Because what's the point of me teaching you something if you don't believe that I'm living the same life as you?
Wow, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's where we're coming from. And then on Wednesday, we do a dating podcast that is a bit more instructional, but people write in their questions, kind of like an advice column that you would see in an old-timey newspaper, probably from when you guys were young. You would read the newspaper.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
As an 8-year-old, I would listen to Lil Wayne and then like read the newspaper on the bus to school. Mm-hmm. Him or Curtis Jackson, otherwise known as 50 Cent, were typically.
I'm a young money millionaire, tougher than Nigerian. Wow.
Which is tough, real tough.
It is tough.
Yeah,
We're not going to say the next line, but but so people write in their dating questions and then we answer them on the show. So we've gotten the gamut of like people say, "Oh, I'm long distance. Should I break up with them, or should I like continue to make it work, or should I move, or what should I do?" So questions like that, all the way to, "Hey, I'm a guy and I've been dating this girl for a year and I was about to propose and she just told me that she was a man. So what do I do?"
Dude, that's the one. That's the one we should use for our reel today. That's the one we gotta 100%. Post that one everywhere.
That question is crazy.
I still can't believe that happened.
I can't believe. Did you not notice his knuckles?
Did you not see the hair on the toes? Come on.
Did you not? You didn't.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're in a marriage class right now. For one of our classes is the sacrament of marriage.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
I mean, we're not. We're taking a class in the seminary.
Same wavelength. Yes.
Yeah. And so now you'll forget. Anyways, okay. So we're in this class, right? We're in this class together, preparing for what will be our future ministry, which encompasses the carrying out, the witnessing out of marriage. And we're discussing these kind of scenarios, like what happens when, certain maybe promises weren't 100%. Maybe people weren't truthful with each other. Maybe, either of the parties were dishonest in their commitments. What do we do with these situations?
Max, I guess then, since you have this kind of, theoretical experience in. What would you say if a future parishioner came up to you and said, "Hey, we want to get married," and then down the line, the lovely lady comes up to you and says, "Father, I have something to confess." Oh, what's that? Not like confession. My name is actually Steve, and what would you do, huh? What would you do if a young lady turned out to be a young fella?
So I think there would be several avenues by which to approach this. If it's not a formal confession, right? We're not in the box
this is exterior. This is not interior forum.
Yeah, I'm eating my cereal, right?
You're saying this is after they get married?
No, because it wouldn't be real marriage.
Okay,
they're preparing for marriage, and they're like, "Hey, I'm actually not a woman. I'm a man. I was born a man."
I would say you need to open up to your partner about this. Does your partner know? Because as y'all move forward in your relationship and you're considering this thing we call marriage, this needs to be open and out in the public. And by the way, let's set you up with a psychologist, and let's try to help you, work your way through this, because it's not, it's a hard situation for the person opening up about this, but also for the future of his or her relationship with the partner. So it's not an easy thing to do. So I don't know. That would be maybe my immediate approach. Hopefully you never
have to be in that situation, Max.
I don't know nowadays, though.
I think we
that's
probably
fair.
Will have
that's
to
a
be
good
in
point.
That situation, yeah.
So this summer I was in Mexico.
Apparently it's easy to hide.
It is apparently easy to hide. But this summer I was in Mexico, and I was talking to seminarians from different parts of the U.S., and the realities are just different with transgenderism, gender dysphoria or homosexuality, and the extent to which priests are dealing with this at their own local level. I'm from the South, and there's not, at least in the open, a lot of dealing with these types of cases. They exist, but they're much more rare than somewhere like California or maybe Washington State, or I would say even up north where we are now.
Stuff's becoming more common. Yeah, narrowed it down. In the northern half of the country.
Yeah.
So.
Do you guys have jackets? No? Okay, no. It's summertime.
Let's look closely.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you answer dating questions that have a wide range of significance and importance.
Sometimes we answer discernment questions.
Not just easy stuff.
Okay.
Sometimes there's discernment questions.
Okay.
Yeah, but we've gotten questions from married people, from dating people, from engaged people, from single people. So like anybody who has a question.
Okay, let me ask you.
That's what we're here for.
Let me ask you this though. But so you gave these dating advices or just relational advice, but then you added humor. How did that help what you do? Like why was that an element y'all picked up? I mean, I know as y'all stated, it's like part of your personality, it's part of who you are. It just kind of came naturally, as I think it has with Joey and I. But like, not that we're funny, but that we joke. That didn't, we worked. We're not naturally funny. I'm naturally funny. Joey's not naturally funny. Anyways, all that to say, why was humor incorporated into your approach?
It wasn't like a conscious choice. Like we weren't like sitting down and being like, yes, what we really need is we need to start a ministry that does comedy. It was just like we kind of figured out along the way that that's what people wanted, the thing that made people talk. It was the thing that helped the podcast get shared. And so like most of the glory stories that have come out of the show have been, people whose friends were like, you should listen to this podcast. And they were like, fine, whatever. And they finally listened to it and they like got through the first part. And the first part is just Ethan is just is ridiculous. He just says crazy things sometimes. And it's just,
that's libel.
It is accurate. I think if you put the jury of the listeners of this podcast, they would mail into Joey's house that you are a crazy person and say crazy things. I said the smoking the bowl joke, but that was from Ethan's head. All right, that was from Ethan's brain. He's the guy. The guy who's like, I thought, are speed dating and dating fast not the same thing? That's Ethan's brain. All right, it's very funny. And people will. The funny thing that I came up with is everything in the kitchen is a table. That's the only funny thing that I've come up with, and I don't even think most people like that joke. I think there's like one or two people.
Break it down for us. Not breaking down jokes always makes the jokes maybe a little less funny, but
so like everything in the kitchen is a table. It's just a small table. Like a plate is just a table you put on top of a table, and a knife is just a really small, sharp table. That's what
about a banana? That's also in the kitchen.
You lose me with the knife, man. You lose me.
The knife is just a bowl is just a rounded table, and then a house is just 4 tables around each other. Everything is a table.
You said that was the only funny thing you came up with?
Yeah.
It's not even that funny.
I don't contribute much to the podcast. I do I'm just a theology machine. That's all right.
You're the theology guy.
Theology machine.
I've been trying to find this quote. I can't find it, but there's some quote from some guy. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
But basically, it's if you are trying to teach somebody something, they're way more likely to believe you if you make them laugh while you tell it to them. Yeah. Especially if it's something that they don't want to hear. And so I think it was like a president, like Woodrow Wilson, like, hey, I'm going to do more to dismantle, Western civilization than any president in history.
Nice.
Ha. And everyone laughs, and then he does
so
it.
Like,
and it's like, whoa, Woodrow Wilson, what were you doing?
Wilson.
You know what I'm saying?
It is interesting that you say that, though, because, we're in a lot of our, we have to take classes on homiletics and stuff. So we have to get ready to preach. We're practicing homiletics.
And they always work.
Yeah, homiletics.
Every priest who's ever taken a homiletics class has succeeded in homiletics.
Hey, actually, Joey, you have a homily on hand. Do you just want to go ahead and just lay that out for us?
Yeah, so on the 25th Sunday of Ordinary Time, I'm just kidding.
What year are you guys in seminary?
We are both in our 3rd year of theology, so we'll be deacons shortly. I got less than 6 months.
Gotcha.
Max has a little more than
You're
that.
on the come up. Mm-hmm. What are you, like 24, 25?
I'm 25.
26 down yonder.
26. Mm-hmm. Okay, awesome. I'm just trying to get a gauge.
Yeah.
Carry on. You're talking about homiletics.
It's funny because our our professor now, he always talks about, when you start preaching a homily, you have to assume that most of the people in the congregation don't really want to hear what you have to say. Like there's a wall of resistance that you have to kind of break through because everyone's kind of like, I don't want to be here. And like, what the heck does this guy actually have to say to me? Right. So like, that's just because we're sinners. That's just like the disposition of most people in the congregation when they approach the homily, when it comes for that time of mass. And so he's like, if you can get the congregation laughing, you've got them. Like you've locked into their intellect. Like that is, it's gold if you can do it. Now the problem is a lot of priests try to make dumb jokes and then they fall flat on their face.
That's right.
And then the
priests aren't
congregation likes you even less after that. But there is something.
It's because one important part about being funny is being like an everyman. You have to like relate to people's experiences. And priests, they just get a salary from the church and they have a place to live forever.
They have casseroles. They have casseroles delivered to their home, and they have a little cat. That's their only responsibility in life, and they get as much alcohol as they want. And then they have a mistress, and it's just like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like,
but also I might say, if you're going to try to be funny, you also need to be funny. You know what I mean? We've all probably experienced to some extent.
Can you name a funny
humor
priest?
Is inherent.
Yes. We got a couple priests here who are hilarious.
There's a priest that we've had on the podcast that I find quite hilarious. His name is Father Brennan.
Yeah, he's funny.
He's hilarious because he has a lot of Southern slang. Has a nice little drawl to him. A lot of that talks about tobacco and apple trees.
Maybe we can find funny because that's like where like he's just a funny person.
Well, so he's a funny person, but he also makes good jokes.
Good jokes. That's it. Clever.
He says good jokes.
Witty.
It's right. Yeah.
Philip Neri, only example that I can think of.
Well, there's a great joke. Actually, I have that Padre Pio played on one of his brother friars that I was reading in his bio. I think hagiography. One time, Padre Pio was waken up by one of his brother friars with like a sack of corn. He was whacked with it or something like that. And so to get his friend back, who thought this event was hilarious, his friend had fallen asleep while they were working outside in his little wheelbarrow. So his buddy was taking a nap in his little wheelbarrow, and so Padre Pio took the wheelbarrow with his friend on it to the top of the hill and let it go. And Padre Pio found it hilarious, and I find that hilarious as well.
Yeah, and that guy died when he hit his head on a rock.
Well,
at the bottom of the
truth,
and they leave it out of his hagiography.
The truth is better received when there's comedy attached to it.
That is right. Weird. That is weird, but not that's crazy, but not as crazy as falling asleep in a wheelbarrow on purpose.
Well, look, when you're a friar and you have nowhere else to lay your head, I think that's a good alternative.
When you're getting up at 2 a.m. for morning prayer and like working through the whole day,
they go back to sleep.
Like when 3 p.m. hits,
they wake up.
Yeah, but they sleep on the floor.
They do sleep on the floor. So a wheelbarrow in some way, especially if there's some dirt in there, get some
boom.
grass.
That's like Tempur-Pedic.
So Padre Pio was like punishing him for his decadence. He was like, "How dare you sleep in a vessel?" The Son of Man has no place to rest his head.
Jesus very literally slept in a vessel, and there's like a really famous story about him falling asleep in a vessel. So I don't know what you're
I'm
talking
trying
about.
to fall asleep in the back.
There's also a famous story about him being born in a vessel.
That's
so that's
true.
kind of cool.
What is
in a cave?
What is a manger but a wheelbarrow?
I don't think he was delivered directly into the like. You gotta. Have you been at a birth? Have you assisted at a live
Yes,
birth?
I was birthed once. Believe it or not.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have never been at a birth other than my own. No.
I'm just saying it's unlikely that Mary positioned herself exactly so that Jesus fell right in the manger. That's what I'm saying.
You don't think?
I just don't think. I've seen a manger and I've seen a birth. I haven't seen that one, so I don't know for sure.
Like light
but there had to have been
glass.
I'm pretty sure that's like in Matthew chapter 22 or something. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. I'm just making it up.
Wow.
What were we talking about, Pat?
Humor and
Humor and evangelization.
And
like it seems that once you got you guys have blown up over the past couple of years, and it seems like a part of that has been the fact that you're funny. So.
Well, the fact that some of you find you
some
funny.
people find you funny.
You don't have to actually be funny. You just have to convince enough people that you are.
Well, you have to put comedy. You have to
put
comedy in your podcast.
Why are you guys trying to neg
title,
me?
You know.
Why are you negging me? I'm already married. I don't need this.
I don't need to be negged.
I feel like a prize girl found at the bar that a bunch of guys are coming up to and be like, "You're not actually pretty." You know, like they invite us on the podcast.
Girl on Twitter who's getting told that her dress is
immodest over and over again.
Sorry, Ethan. I think you're hilarious. Thank you for coming on to this podcast.
Why are you saying
sorry.
that? It's so
Affirmation
disrespectful that
station.
you're doing that.
Affirmation station.
I'm trying to find the medium here, you know?
Now you're just love bombing.
I know,
him.
I'm just-
What are you doing?
Sorry.
I know. I'm just Max, I'm messing with you.
Okay. I'm messing with you too. So I was just kidding.
Okay. Dude, that's crazy, dude. What are you talking about? This is so awkward.
So, anyways,
Dude, I love this. I love this.
I
Patrick knows that I'm having a great
we got
time.
a buddy who in the seminary who always, every time there's an awkward silence, he'll just break in with. So, anyways,
Oh,
So anyways,
that guy.
that's it. That's the way to do it. Because it's way better. So there was this thing that happened when millennials came alive. That anytime
was
something was
awkward.
like, did you guys notice how awkward that silence was? It's
That's
like,
a pretty awkward bacon.
Awkward.
put all those people in camps is what I think. Like and then they can, and it can be quiet at night, and there's just a bunch of people laying in their bunks being like, "You guys hear this awkward silence?"
So that happened.
So that
Me
happened,
after getting
and
loaded
then they
onto
never
the
get
train. So that happened.
they never get reintegrated to society. Don't kill them. Don't make them work. Just like let them exist in their own little
Awkwardness of an existence.
Exactly. You guys get this. Are there any millennials at the seminary with you?
yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
There are a couple.
Can you tell a difference? And just like the way
So
that they are.
I would say that seminarians are a particular group of men, in the sense for various reasons. One of which is I think a lot of the guys, at least at our seminary, that come here are for the most part mature guys. Not in all areas, but in a lot of areas, particularly those. They're not so intertwined with like social media. They're not so engaged with every other thing, but they're not unaware of it. But I don't think they've picked up all the mannerisms of the classic millennial. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah, no, that's good. I think, sorry, I'm just thinking about your humor question and evangelization. There's a certain thing that can be unlocked when you are able to disarm people. And it's what you were talking about with the homiletics thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's a reason that comedy works, and it's not like, I wouldn't call what we do a ministry. You called it a ministry earlier. We're running a business that just so happens to be like Catholic.
Yeah.
And,
we trade
like-
on the New York Stock Exchange. Ever heard of it? It's the
Yeah, we issued an IPO on the NASDAQ.
the P in IPO stands for Pat.
And
Well
the
done,
I
well done,
stands
Pat.
for
iPad
Internet Podcast
offer.
Outing Offer. So it's like, it's weird because we have to ride this balance between, like, we do care about evangelization. Like, ultimately everything that we do is for the gospel, is for Jesus, is to live out our vocation in the best way that we possibly
for
can.
sure.
But like, I'm not here to like make sure that every single person, like, the way that we do our podcast is not the same as like the CFRs do their podcast, or the way that you guys do
Yeah.
your podcast, because we're not really trying to like, we are bringing souls to Christ, but that's not like the express written purpose of the
we have a
podcast,
mission
if that
statement.
makes
Yeah.
sense. Like, really, we really just want to make Catholicism attractive and understandable, and like by just being attractive and understandable people.
Yeah.
And then through the process of people get more involved in the community, they join our Discord, they start talking to other people, they like get to know, because we have 600 people in a Discord community that all are fans of our show, and everybody's talking and they're helping each other get jobs, and they're praying for each other, and they're talking about Catholicism, and they're talking about atheism, they're talking about all these things. It's like, okay, you can't really do that. Like, how much conversion can really happen from people listening to two guys talk that they've never met before in their
Right.
life? Like, a seed can be planted, sure, but you got to have something there to like carry people after that. And so the comedy is the best way that I've found, or the best way that I'm suited, because I'm not a genius. I don't know a bunch of stuff about philosophy or theology, and frankly, I don't care to know.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
Because
Well,
I would.
you know, take it easy. You know, when
I don't have to. I need to learn how to. I got a mortgage.
That's
Max.
true. He's got a mortgage.
That's what I'm thinking.
He's
He's got a
about,
little
right?
naked
Like,
baby peeing and eating diapers, dude.
eating diapers, dude.
I got a naked baby, and so that is like the stuff that I think is really crucial to get people into a community, or at least encourage people to find a community, even if it's not ours. And I think a comedy podcast is a way better starting point than even like I don't know. It just depends on the disposition, I guess. I'm of a certain generation that doesn't really care to watch another Ascension Press video where someone sits down and looks at me very earnestly and tries to teach me something. Like, as the Catechism of the Catholic Church says, it's like that. I would rather jump off a cliff than watch another one of those. Like I just don't. That's not for me. It's true.
No, and
does that make sense? Not to bag on Ascension
or
Press,
on Logos
like,
podcast. No, nothing personal. But I do. Like, I'm thinking right now. I'm thinking of our Lord and the disciples, and like they probably just like had fun together. And like when people were invited, like to follow the Lord, they probably just like saw this group of people who were kind of like a little bit nuts. Like they left their home, they left their family, but it was probably just so attractive because they were alive and they probably did joke with each other and like, so like, and I love your. Like this whole concept of like what's going to bring about conversion is community, not necessarily listening to you guys, even though that might be a seed that's planted. And that's so true. It's like we're drawn to the Lord through real relationship. And insofar as you guys are funny and relatable, you guys are indirectly kind of drawing people to the Lord.
Yeah, and I want to bring out a couple things too. One of the things that, to Joey's first point, about the disciples being attractive, the community being attractive and bringing people into that was one when we were at the Sea of Galilee at the Holy Land, which y'all visited recently. Is that right?
You guys been there?
Yeah, in July.
That's freaking
sick. Yeah,
it's
I just
so
swam
cool.
in there.
That's pretty cool. Did you you stay at the Ron Beach Hotel?
No, we did not.
We stayed at Magdala.
All right.
Magdala. Yes, right.
Oh, you stayed at the
Duke
Center.
in Altum Spirituality
That's right. We were
Center.
spiritualized.
What'd you think of that? What'd you think of that altar? Are you allowed to say publicly?
It was beautiful. I felt like I was in a boat.
I'll say this.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I didn't like it personally, but it wasn't so. Like it made sense to me, and I could see how somebody would like it, and I get it.
Yeah,
it makes sense if you're a freaking liberal and you were designing a church.
I saw it and
that's
I was
what it
like,
would
I
look
can't
like.
believe that this is here. I can't believe that America happened here
it was,
too.
You know what? I have to be honest. That was actually my experience. And it was very distracting. Anybody who went there, that's like the one thing they remembered. Like that, and the fact that you're walking where Jesus walked. That's like those are the two things you want to remember leaving there. And weird other priests that were in the area. It's like, all right, whatever. But all that to say, there was probably something. The disciples probably had fun. Their community, they probably exchanged conversations at the Sea of Galilee. Probably looked at the stars and talked. Probably, drank wine. I don't know, these kinds of things we can imagine. Let our imaginations wander in the community. But also, the early Christians, one of the things that made them so attractive was precisely this: their community, their unity, and fighting for the truth and standing up for it and sharing with each other and, probably enjoying each other's birthdays and company together. And so that's part of it. But I also want to go to something you said earlier, Ethan, about y'all didn't set out necessarily to be missionaries through, the podcast platform. Rather, y'all are seeking to fulfill y'all's vocations as husbands
and dads.
And one of the ways that y'all do that is by taking the things in the natural world and trying to bring people into communion with our Lord through that matter. Myself and Joey, as seminarians striving for the priesthood, have a particular role in the vocational life, and the CFRs, as you mentioned earlier, have a particular role in the vocational life as well, and the means by which we express those truths and our Lord are going to be different due to personalities and all other roles. But I think the way y'all are doing it is something that's drawn me into y'all's project, and what I've really liked about y'all. So I guess I want to say thank you for that. Be less weird, but if not, that's okay.
It's not gonna happen. We are financially tied to this. We are contractually obligated to get silly. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you've been drawn in. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. There's something about friendship. Like you guys. I mean, I confess I haven't listened to a whole Crunch episode. So.
But only some pieces of some.
But seeing the Instagram videos and listening to the parts that I have, encountering your guys' friendship it's a beautiful, attractive thing. So
what's
cool.
You know what's funny is when people will come up to, actually this weekend, 2 different families at the parish I was at were like, dude, I'm loving the podcast. And what they always say without a doubt is, I love yours and Joey's dynamic. Not, hey, I love this truth. Thank you for bringing in, Nietzsche and,
it's all about
Hildebrand. It's all about the vibes, las vibrations, you know?
You just picked up on the most important thing that 95% of Catholic podcasts don't understand, is that no one really cares. There's very few people that care about the actual teaching.
Yep.
Like if I wanted to learn something about the faith, I'm going to read a book about it. I'm going to listen to an expert on it. I'm not going to listen to some podcast by some guy telling me a retelling of the same book that I could read, like his thoughts on it. Like I don't really care. I'm just going to go and read it. But what I will... Sorry. Go ahead. No,
what I was going to say, let me challenge you a little bit on that, right? So here recently I was doing some research on the estimation of how... Hear me out.
He just took his headphones off. Headphones off.
I was joking.
Of how how quickly people are moving away from reading books. And actually, the podcast medium is becoming more popular than books currently.
Oh, sure.
And so
yeah.
The way in which people are receiving knowledge, it seems to me to depend to some extent on podcasts, good or bad, you know? And so just laying that out, as it were, before you.
But your point, Patrick, Ethan, I totally get it. Like,
it happens all the time. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Like Max and I are often surprised because we do think it's about the content a lot of times. We like plan our episodes and we're thinking about what we want to say, and then people come up to us and they're like, "Oh, we loved how funny you guys were," and we're like, "Were you listening to what we said?" And
we talked about Caravaggio, yo.
They're like, they don't really care. So you're so right that I think it's the humanity, it's the
because people aren't
authenticity.
taking notes about what you said. Like they're on a podcast. I sometimes take notes about podcasts, but I'm a little weird. People won't remember. I mean, like, when you give talks, when you do a homily, right? It's like people aren't going to remember what you said. They're going to remember how you made them feel. And like when it's two dudes sitting down talking about theology, this is what we kind of did at the beginning. We're like inspiring conversation, so people would have conversations about the podcast with their friends, and that was the goal. I think you guys probably do that too. Like that's likely the case. That's likely the benefit your audience gets is they have a conversation about the podcast. But like they like that Max gets a little wacky and Joey is more, straight edge. They like that dynamic. That's a good dynamic.
Yeah, you do. It keeps you coming back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a Apollinarian and Dionysian action, if you know what I'm saying.
Nobody knows what you're saying.
Okay.
This is what I mean,
think
Max.
that's
You can't
against
do
the
that.
law.
That's what if somebody just breaks down the door, tackles me on the ground, and arrests me?
FBI. I heard there was some Polynesius and Dionysius action going on here. I heard there were some polygons and dinosaurs making out, or whatever you said. That wasn't.
I don't know about you, but I love Polynesius chicken. It's tasty, man.
Oh my gosh.
It's good. I get
Polynesian
it.
dinosaurs.
Dude, you got to get it in where you can,
Okay, I have noticed that on your social media, one of the things that you guys like to do, and this probably seems to be Patrick more with the Masters in Theology, but you do respond to a lot of objections or criticisms of Catholicism, like some comedy and apologetics combined. What are some of the most ridiculous things you've ever heard said about the Catholic faith?
Number one, I can tell you without even thinking about it, that the Catholic Church is responsible for killing the apostles.
What?
It's not that it's the most ridiculous thing I've heard. It's the most ridiculous thing I've heard often. I've heard it often.
Yeah.
One of my most popular, actually the most popular video on our episode on our page,
nice,
with 430,000 views is which is not a lot for Instagram, but it's a lot for us.
It's a lot for us. It's so much. I think it's more views.
Don't say it. It's like just as many as we get.
On our last video.
Yeah, it's about the same. It's about the same as you guys. It's me making a joke about like Protestants going, we got to return to the Church of the Apostles. And then it's me busting out the door like the Catholic Church has the bodies of all 12 apostles. And of course, you have some ortho bros getting mad like, we have the body of St. Andrew. Yeah, only because we let you, okay? That's what we gave it to you as a gift. Gratis, okay? You're welcome. That's Latin for thank you.
I thought it was Spanish for free.
It might be. I don't know. But the
you could say thank you in your language, but you have 15,000 different languages, Orthodox man,
get out of
because
here.
you're so tied
Syriac,
to your local ethnic culture, idiot. How about you be Roman like the rest of us,
get out of
brother?
Here. But
Get out of here, Greek
A
man.
bunch of Protestants in the comments were like, yeah, you have their bodies because you killed them. And I was like, what are you talking about?
That is a notable thing that people who murder other people do, is that they keep their
the body
for thousands of years.
What I don't understand is if the Catholic Church killed the apostles, then it's been here from the beginning. But that like that, right? Like that. But also, like, if the Catholic Church killed the apostles, then like, what was the church after? Like, if the Catholic Church was like actively do you like maybe they think that the Jews were the Catholics and the Catholic Church is Jewish? Like, maybe that's it.
Anti-Semitic.
I don't know. Like, it was very confusing. I commented, like, I still get that comment on that video. It's like, oh yeah, because Rome killed the apostles, and I don't think they recognize that there's an historical difference between the pagan Roman Empire and the Roman Catholic Church, and then the Roman Empire. They don't realize there's a difference between these things. But
that is,
without a doubt, that's the weirdest thing that I've heard.
That's crazy.
Well, it's true. We did kill the apostles.
It's true.
Yep.
And we ate them.
No, sorry. We should not blaspheme on this feast of St. Matthew the Apostle.
We did. Well,
we killed the Lord. We are my sins. We did.
It's our own sins. I'll never know how much it costs to see my sin upon that cross.
Were you there when they crucified my Lord?
Were you there?
That's a good question. What's your least favorite praise and worship song?
Oh gosh, you're gonna
Lord
just make me so mad.
What's your least favorite worship song, Ethan? I don't really have a least favorite worship song. I'm kind of a metal.
I don't listen to worship music typically, so I don't know.
Favorite.
My least favorite song, and I think this is too easy of a target because it's become so commercial, is "Oh Come to the Altar" or something like that.
Oh, I actually
you don't like that?
One.
No, I like
have
Protestant
kind of songs that are like Catholic coded. I like that.
I think I have a bit of PTSD when I listen to that song. Because I have like memories of like my friends' churches playing it at a far distance and asking me to come to the altar, even though I'm Catholic, and and it's just like what? Yeah, go to the altar just repeatedly.
It's like a Protestant.
Max is like, they're like telling me to come to the altar, and it's like, okay, I'll go be a priest.
I'll go, yeah. So and let me just not go to your altar and go to a different one far, far away, and
but it's not an altar.
Fulfill.
They have just a stage. Oh,
that's true. The stage.
The stage.
You know what I'm saying? And check out these curtains and LED lights. That's the added version.
The LED light guy.
The LED light guy.
PTSD stands for Protestant Trauma Stress Disorder.
Wow. Well done.
Huge.
Off the dome,
Big
dude.
True.
Yeah, well.
My man.
Not really. I've been sitting on it for like a minute while you guys were finishing what you were doing. I didn't want to interrupt.
Oh, man.
I don't have any funny songs. Yeah, we get that one a lot. There's a lot of questions that people have. I think the reason that we go so hard on the Protestants is because American Catholicism lacks any kind of distinctive features other than that it's the thing that people point at when they want to be mad about something. And so it's like really for Catholics, they don't really have an identity associated with it because to most people, I go to the Catholic Church, and maybe I go to the Presbyterian Church, maybe I go to the Baptist Church. It's all the same, like they don't really see any difference. And so I think something that we like to do is just point out like, hey, there actually is a pretty big difference between these.
Yeah.
And you as a Catholic should be proud of those differences, and you should know why those differences exist. And so trying to instill an actual like Catholic culture as much of a slop in the trough way as we can through the Instagram, I think is really important because people don't think about these things, and then when they can put words to it because Patrick makes a reel quoting, all of the church fathers about the Eucharist. And it's like, that's why that's different than, my wife's church or as my dad's church, and I think that's really important, especially like we were talking about before, if you do it in a funny way. If someone just sits down and says, did you know that in the year 100, St. Justin Martyr wrote this about the Eucharist? And it's like, okay, that's great for me because I already like want to watch that content and I already want to believe in it. But like for some guy, Patrick dancing in a chasuble is way funnier. and
It
like
wasn't
way
a
more
chasuble.
engaging.
It was a cassock with a
was just a
surplus.
cassock.
Whatever it was.
Yeah, that's a big difference.
I didn't steal
Cassock and
vestments.
surplus.
Don't worry.
Not sacrilege.
No sacrilege.
Pardon my French. I don't know what any of those words mean.
I think
But,
me using a chasuble, me putting on a chasuble and dancing around would have been a canonical crime.
I
Me
think-
putting on a cassock,
No,
not a canonical
no.
crime.
Not a canonical crime.
Name one canon lawyer that would prosecute that case.
I have some in mind, and I'll put them on you
Work for the
quickly.
diocese, Ethan.
Huh?
Send me. I need a canon lawyer. Take me to the canon judge and put me in a canon jail. And then shoot me in a cannon.
Shoot you out of a cannon or with a cannon?
When my youth group buddies and I in high school found out that canon lawyers existed, we had a field day with that. We were like, imagine a canon bailiff. It's a big fat guy with a Vatican flag on his lapel.
Well, yeah, that's
With cannon handcuffs.
and then there's also cannons at a cathedral, which our listeners may not
Yeah.
know of, right? Which are
How
custodians
else
of
are you
the
going to defend the cannons? How else are you going to defend the cathedral from the
Exactly.
Moors?
from those people trying to invade the cathedral
Those
space.
people.
Happens all the time.
You got to stop them, you know.
Bye, Ethan.
Ethan left. Ethan had to go.
Oh man.
Oh my god.
Dude,
From
you got me
those
there.
people.
That's
Right.
Those people.
Those
That was
people.
good. All right. Well,
Yeah.
boys, fellas,
Yeah, what's up?
I have a job to get back to, unfortunately.
Yeah, you guys do have to work.
Yeah,
and
I do
we've kept
too.
you for a long time. So thanks for coming on. Do you have any closing remarks for any of the Logos podcast listeners? Maybe about the Crunch Comedy Podcast, or I don't know, anything you just
Listen.
want to say. It doesn't even have to be profound. It can just be what's on your mind.
Listen,
To the podcast.
if you own a business that has a marketing budget and you would like to advertise to thousands of Catholics between the ages of 18 and 35, send me an email, ethan@thecrunchcast.com. I'd love to fill up our ad spots. And if you don't have that, then come join this comedy podcast. It's a lot of fun, and it's there's no stench of capitalism here. We have a good time.
If you are
Check it
a
out.
famous
It's on
celebrity Catholic and you want me to
iBooms.
roast you next on our podcast, send me
He's
an
got a
email,
hit list.
ethan@thecrunchcast.com.
Who's
Comes from Christopher.
your most famous follower on Instagram? Logos podcast.
Who's your most famous follower on Instagram?
Our most famous follower.
Our most famous follower. Let's see.
We have the pink Power Ranger, and that's about it.
That's what I was gonna say. We have the pink Power Ranger.
That is hard to beat.
We don't.
I gotta say.
She's
don't have
Catholic.
that. I think
Apparently.
we have Joey's sister, who's the most. No, she's not the most famous. I think maybe Father Stephen Gadberry would be one of the ones that comes to mind. That's the most famous.
Father
Or Father
Josh
Josh Johnston, as well.
Huge.
Father Josh
These
Johnson
Ascension
probably
Press
is
people,
it. Yeah,
famous in
that's
the
great.
Catholic world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
Father Josh
yeah.
Johnson, I don't think follows us.
What about y'all?
But
They said the pink.
The pink
What about
Power
us?
Ranger.
That's
I
right.
think-
Power
the
Ranger.
pink Power
Okay.
Ranger.
That's
Not
it.
the black one or the blue one.
No.
Sorry, the which
The
one?
black or blue one. None of
No.
those.
I don't think there is a black Power Ranger.
What about the brown one?
Not a brown one either.
Oh, I can't believe it.
I think is John Blevins more famous than the pink Power Ranger?
At this
I don't
point,
know.
yeah, probably.
I don't know who John Blevins is, but
Probably.
I know who the Pink Power Ranger is. So I think that answers your question.
Yeah, but if I told you it's the pink Power Ranger from the friggin' Time Force, like, would you know who? Like, could you point her out in a lineup?
if I saw a Pink Power Ranger, I think she'd be pretty
No,
easy
no,
to
no, no. The
identify.
actress who plays her, not the girl in costume.
The actress who
Come
plays
on.
her.
Yeah, get with
Would
it,
you
Joe.
recognize the pink Power Ranger in a lineup? Which one of these people is a pink Power Ranger? Oh, probably that one in the cowboy suit. Nope. Good try.
Wrong.
Most people
that's,
get that
That's
confused.
a canon.
That's a cowboy.
All right, guys. That's all we have from you, from Joey and I. Thank y'all for tuning into this episode of Logos Podcast. Guys, thank you for coming on, for spending this time with us. Y'all
Of
are
course.
hilarious. Still
It's
not
great to be
funnier
here.
than us.
I hope this episode will
but-
air.
Clip
Do
that.
you think this is going to go out?
Do I think what?
Do you think this episode's actually going to
Do you
go
think
out,
it'll
or is it
drop?
going to get the kibosh?
It'll drop.
from
Yeah,
the communications
we'll
department.
Probably release it.
It'll be hey,
Okay.
I'll drop it like it's caliente.
Like
you know what I'm
it's
saying?
caliente.
Sí, se
Sí,
puede.
se puede.
Se
That's
puede.
right.
All right, Obama.
Or as Kamala Harris said, si se puede.
Oh, sí. So, se puede.
Kamala Harris to
Let
follow
me
us
be
on
clear.
Instagram.
Yeah, that's what we need to do. That's our next mission. Guys, thank y'all for tuning
thanks,
in.
guys.
Thank y'all. Get back to y'all's jobs, back to your family. Take care of that naked baby. It's important that it's no longer
I will.
naked, that you put clothes on its back. Joey, thank you.
Sweet.
Guys, this has been a great episode. Thank y'all for tuning in. We hope y'all grew closer to our Lord through our humor and our very profound thoughts. And as always, God bless.